Well, thanks for coming in today. We've just got a few technical questions for you in this interview. James, can you tell us what polymorphism is? Uh, that's all right. Can you just tell us some of the core components of object-oriented programming? Um, okay. Can you tell us what the difference is between a class and an interface? Oh, shit. That was basically how one of my very first technical interviews went. It was really embarrassing. So in this video, I'll tell you how I absolutely bombed my first technical interview. So I guess to start this off, I've talked a lot about like my background in different places, but I have a computer science degree, which means that I have a formal education. And in my senior year, I was applying for jobs just like everyone else. And anyway, before I get into the actual interview, I want to give my perspective on my education. So my education was not super practical in a lot of sense. It was a lot of theory, which has helped me, but I never built a website. I never used the terminal. I never used the Git. I never used a lot of stuff that you would commonly assume that you would use, especially for people that go through boot camps and that sort of stuff. And then on top of that, I didn't appreciate my learning for what it was. I went to college because that was kind of the natural thing to do. And I got good grades because I cared about my grades. I didn't care about learning the material really well. And that really bit me in the ass later on in my interview. So I had several different interviews, a couple of them were not technical at all. They were behavioral. Tell me about a time you did this. Tell me about a project you worked on. And I did really well at that. And I got to this one company, a company in Nashville, who has since reached out to me to express interest in me coming to them like years later. So the irony of that. But at the time, I had a phone conversation with a recruiter, a phone conversation with a technical hiring manager or something. I don't know. And all of that went really well. Like conversationally, I was kind of confident in myself. I could communicate, that sort of stuff. I did really well. And from what I gathered, they seemed to be really excited about me. And I felt really good about that. So one day, they had scheduled a lot of us, 10 of us from Vanderbilt, which is where I went, to come in to the office and do these interviews where you do a series of interviews. So I think I maybe had 3, 4, 5 different ones. Not all of them were super technical, but I got to one of them that was. And again, my perspective on my education, I didn't learn, like I just did homework assignments and I just did what people told me to and I just made good grades. I didn't really understand the stuff. So even though we had used Java for object-oriented programming in several classes over the course of several years, even though I had used classes for several years, I didn't really understand what object-oriented programming was. And this is not a video about object-oriented programming. That just happens to be the questions that I got. So we start this conversation. We're just kind of talking. He's like, all right, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Can you tell me about a class in Java? Maybe is the first one. Oh, well, it gives structure to an object or something. And then like a specific question was the difference between a class and an interface. Now I teach this. I talk about this a lot, not really on this channel, but in the class that I teach and conversations that I have with people, the benefits of an interface versus a class, when to use them and how they work. And that's not the point of this video. The point is I had to literally say in this technical interview, for one of the very few technical questions I got, I literally don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And that was a very defeating thing. So that was one of the questions. I think I got asked about polymorphism, which kind of gets into the idea of interfaces, or can be. Encapsulation, what are the core components of object-oriented programming? I literally had no idea. I didn't know what to say. And looking back, or at least at the time, I was so embarrassed. Like I got hot and I started sweating and my heart was racing and I just felt dumb, to be honest. And now, 7 years later, I look back at what a different developer I am. I literally teach people like in a boot camp on YouTube. I talk about this stuff for a living as part of my job as well, my full-time job. And I couldn't be more different now than I was then. But now I appreciate it. I learn myself. I build stuff to learn. I enjoy it. I appreciate it. I embrace the community. I love everything about the career that I'm in. But at the time, I didn't have that appreciation and that desire to really understand what was going on. So I guess the moral of the story is just to share a little personal story for me, but also to say, like, if you bomb a technical interview, I've absolutely been there. Like my very first one, I bombed. I've been in the Google interviews and I've done fairly well in most of them. And I've done a pretty shitty job in some of them too. And I felt really dumb in there too. It happens. Like, it's part of the process. If you go through an interview and you bomb something, remember what that question was and then go and research that thing and never mess up that question again. That's all you have to do. It's really not that big a deal. No matter how dumb you feel, no matter how upset it makes you, it's one interview. Take that, learn, do better in the next interview, and you never know where you'll end up. Again, like the stuff that I had no idea how to answer back then. I literally teach for a living. Like, that is my job, is to create content and engage with people and teach them how to do stuff. I never would have thought at that time, in that moment, that I would be able to do this today. So if you bombed an interview, keep your head up. Trust me, it's fine. We've all been there. Look forward to the next one. Prepare yourself better for the next one. Work hard for the next one, and really appreciate what you're learning and the journey and the path that you are going down. There's no better career in my mind than something development or programming related. So you're on a good path. Hope you enjoyed this little personal story. If you have any other questions about my interviews in the past, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer a few extra ones. In the meantime, keep your head up, work hard. Thanks for checking out the video, and I'll catch you next time.